Welcome to Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back today, and happy 4th of July. Today, I thought we should reminisce upon our country's founding and what it means to be Americans and what that means to the rest of the world. Well, America, the only true free country on earth. We're celebrating our independence today. Celebrating our independence from England. Is there much more to say? We fought against a nation who had unjust rules and unjust laws. We left them. They still tried to keep rule over us here, and we still said shove off. Nowadays, not even nowadays, 75 years ago or so, there was a great generation of Americans who had to fight off a terrible evil. An evil that we didn't even know existed until we encountered it with our eyes actually seeing what was happening. Talking, of course, about Nazi Germany, Poland, Ukraine. We didn't know that there was internment camps, death camps, concentration camps, work camps. When we entered World War II, we didn't know these things about Germany. And yet by the end of the war, there was no denying that the Germans had exterminated at least 11 million people. Nowadays, there's another genocide taking place that no one wants to talk about. Everyone wants to support and be sponsored by the country who is currently committing genocide. Nike, Reebok, Adidas, so many companies, so many names. You've got, I don't have proof on everything, so I won't name every name that I've heard, but let's just say there's so many companies in the United States doing business with China. And a lot of the business that's being done with the Chinese is coming from the XinJiang region of China. The XinJiang region is where the Uighur Muslims have been taken to and held in concentration camps, detainee camps, enslavement camps, however you like to word it. Since 2014, maybe earlier, thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of Uighur Muslims have been kidnapped from all across the Middle East, taken to China, and put into re-education camps, as some might call it. China tries to cover up its abuses. Joe Biden will tell you that China just wants to enforce their cultural norms and that he shouldn't butt in about it. Well, I've got more information for you today, as you know that I love talking about the Uighur Muslim situation in China. I think it's pathetic that our government refuses to acknowledge it or call for action against it. I mean, this is America. We are fighters. We have fought against tyranny and evil since our inception. Where are we now? So, starting off from the Economic Times, their title article is called "Leaked Documents Show China's Plan of Uighur Repression." The leaked document, known as the XinJiang Police Files, from the internment camps in the XinJiang Uighur Autonomous Region, shows the Chinese government's plan of genocide and crimes against Uyghurs. The files contain information about over 20,000 detained Uyghurs, Radio Free Asia reported. Now, among the documents is a May 2017 speech by the Chinese Communist Party's Secretary of the XUAR, Chen Guanyo. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He said that the Chinese government's crackdown in Xinjiang was not an act of stamping out criminals, but rather an extinction war aimed at the Uyghur population. He called the Uyghurs an enemy class. One thing that stuck out to me in this article almost at the very beginning, they said the XinJiang Uighur Autonomous Region. I know we're talking about China here, however, don't you find it a little funny that in the riots of 2020 across the United States, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, as the domestic terrorists they are, as they stole land from American citizens and claimed it as their own. Do you remember what they called it? The Capitol Hill Occupied Protest. What was it? The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. The Red House Autonomous Zone, I think was one. The RAZ. It's interesting that these Marxist, communist, socialist anarchists who defile our streets in the names of Black Lives Matter and Antifa use, it's an autonomous region, it's an autonomous zone. I just find it very interesting. It's a commonality between two groups of very dictatorial and maybe not fascistic, but certainly socialistic types of people. Now heading over to XinJiangPoliceFiles.org and going to their key documents section, let's just read a little bit. You can download these for yourself. I don't personally trust the files, but I'm going to read to you the highlight of this section here. Among the key evidence contained in the XinJiang police files, two sets of documents stand out in particular. First, 3 speeches by leading officials speak of Beijing's close knowledge of and direct involvement in the mass internment drive. They show that the leadership demanded security forces to fire on persons seeking to escape detention or on those who dared to resist the state. Second, a set of security directives for re-education camp police outlines how the camps are guarded by special police units armed with military assault rifles and sniper guns. That's the wording they chose. They state that detainees are to be transported wearing handcuffs, shackles, and hoods and are to be guarded by police. These sound like prisoners. If they're prisoners, why isn't their own country arresting them? Again, some of these detainees have come from countries nearby and outside of China. So why is China pulling Uighur Muslims from other countries to re-educate them? Now I know previously I said that the government, the United States government, is doing nothing to call this out. However, doing my research for this article, I did find a chair's statement on the release of the XinJiang police files. Senator Jeff Merkley, who is a Democrat in Oregon, and Representative James McGovern, who is a Democrat of Massachusetts, the chair and co-chair respectively of the bipartisan and bicameral Congressional Executive Commission on China, issued the following statement on the release of leaked police documents from the XinJiang Uighur Autonomous Region. And I'm reading this to you from the Congressional Executive Commission on China, from cecc.gov. Quote, newly released files from a leaked police database highlight the role Xi Jinping and other top officials had in crafting the genocidal policies employed in the XinJiang Uighur Autonomous Region, and demonstrate clearly that Turkic Muslims, or Muslims from Turkey, are detained because of their cultural and religious identity and not for any specific criminal actions. The evidence presented is overwhelming and horrific and cannot be ignored or pushed aside by the international community. We urge the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights to confront Chinese officials with the evidence presented by these leaked documents on her visit to the XUAR this week. We will continue to work with the administration on strategies to address the human rights crimes being committed in the XUAR, including through new sanctions and vigorous implementation of import restrictions next month on goods produced with forced labor. No one should profit from genocide and crimes against humanity. We again call on the Chinese government to end immediately its egregious human rights abuses targeting Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and other ethnic and religious minorities. Bravo to you, gentlemen. If you come to my channel, you know that me and the Democrats don't really get along. I don't like their agenda or what they stand for. However, good men will always shine through. Good, truth, light, and reason will always shine through. These men have made a bold statement, an accurate statement, and one that should not be ignored. And I don't know when this was written. It would be handy. That way we could try to follow up as to whether or not any of this documentation was provided to the officials in the XUAR region that the High Commissioner was going to visit. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be import restrictions next month on goods produced with forced labor. This is talking about like Nike buying shoes or, having products made in the XinJiang region, where these internment camps, detainee camps, concentration camps, death camps are at. And yes, it's not just Uyghur Muslims, it's Kazakhs and some other local, again, Turkey, some other local regions. This is genocide, folks. People are being murdered for immutable characteristics. They're being murdered, captured, raped, beaten. They're having their genitalia mutilated and scarred and removed. Women are raped and gang raped, while other female prisoners are forced to hold them down. And then once that woman is pregnant, if she gets pregnant, they force an abortion on her because they don't want the Uyghur bloodline to continue. They force contraceptives on male. They force sterilizations on male. They re-educate you to make you say things against your own country that you would never say under normal conditions. And then they beat into you pro statements about China. This is evil, and it's looking you in the eye, folks. Are you going to stand for it? Alright, let's turn it over to the UK for some coverage now. From csw.org.uk, their titled article is Newly Revealed XinJiang Police Files Detail Mass Detention of Uyghurs. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit in this article, down to where it says, according to the BBC News report, the organization spent several months authenticating files which were passed on to the BBC by the researcher Dr. Adrian Zenz, who received them from an anonymous source who claims have hacked, downloaded, and encrypted the files from a number of police computer servers in the XUAR. An analysis of the data by Dr. Zenz shows that in just one country in southern XinJiang, in just one county in southern XinJiang, more than 12% of the adult population were either in a camp or a prison in the years of 2017 and 2018. The BBC also states that the XinJiang police files include more than 5,000 police photographs of Uyghurs taken between January and July 2018, and that at least 2,884 of the people photographed have been detained, either in prisons or in re-education camps. The youngest was just 15 years old at the time of her detention, and the eldest was 73. So people around the world are hearing the message. People like me are screaming about it. This has got to be at least the third episode that I've done about it alone. And still, the YouTube algorithm wants to suppress me talking about the genocide taking place in China. Because, can't prove it, but I'm sure YouTube has assets in China. Well, here we are. To conclude, we were once a great nation, a strong nation, a nation of values and morals and principles. We would fight for those who had tyranny imposed against them, against their will. We used to go across the world to help those less fortunate than us. Nowadays, we sit around and riot because yet another black man was shot, running from police, mind you, using his gun in an illegal manner, mind you. We're upset because of how many times he was shot, without actually understanding the rules of engagement, when you stop shooting at a subject. People have no idea what combat or fighting or violence is actually like. Scream about the injustices of it. They have no idea. They have no idea what actually happens in reality. They have no idea why actual choices are made. People are all upset about Jayland Walker. And I get it, may he rest in peace. But he made his own decisions. Now everyone's got to live with that. We're upset because another person who was committing crimes and who was breaking the law was killed by police. You don't have my sympathy, man. We're sitting here in the streets, screaming, yelling, crying about it. Does it matter? Does it matter in the totality of everything else going on in the world that another criminal was shot by police? Or does it matter that men, women, and children are being kidnapped for simply being who they are, for believing how they do, for living the way they do? They're being kidnapped, made to disappear. They're being murdered. They're being exterminated as a population by China, by the Chinese Communist Party. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to ask it. I understand the consequences of war. I understand the consequences of what I'm asking when I ask to go to war with China and Russia. But I say it time and time again. I demand Congress, as a United States citizen, declare war upon the Chinese Communist Party and commit to a total land, sea, and air invasion. Use whatever means you have to win this fight and get this war approved by Congress. Tired of these sham proxy drone strike wars that we get involved in that aren't approved by Congress. We have a constitution that tells us how to go to war. It says we must get it approved by Congress. So Congress, do your job. Make this the focal point of what we're talking about. Screw your gun legislature. Screw your abortion rights. Screw all this other woke culture, Kendall, Kylie Jenner, Kardashian bullshit. Too many people care about it actually. No one should care about it more than what's happening in China. I get it, you've got a little crack phone in your hands and it keeps you entertained and distracted from what's actually happening out there. You get entertained by it, seeing smiling dogs and pretty cats and some little child doing something cute or funny or outrageous. It makes you laugh. There's going to be time for that later. First, we need to deal with the murdering, lunatic regime that exists in China. We need to quit doing business with China. We need to quit buying products from China. We need to quit sending American businessmen and women over there. It's not a good place for us to be right now. I hope you all can agree with this message. If you don't agree with ending this genocide in China, please tell me why in the comments. Please go ahead and embarrass yourself as to why we shouldn't stop these human rights abuses from going on. Because I guarantee if you complain about me in China, you're one of the people in the streets yelling about Jayland Walker or Jacob Blake, George Floyd, any of the other false narratives. This is real life. This is really happening. Millions of people. The same ideology that has a hold over there in China has come to America in the form of Black Lives Matter and Antifa. You've got South Carolina representatives of Congress literally calling for Antifa and BLM to come out in the streets. We gotta fix ourselves before we can go to war. I get that. But boy, do we have a lot of work to do. But in my opinion, nothing is more important than innocent men and women and children and protecting them. That matters more than any of this bullshit, drama, teenage drama queen bullshit that we're dealing with here, that we care about here, that we make important here. I'll be talking about China again. I'll be bringing up the Uighur Muslim genocide again. I hope to see you all back either next week or sooner if I can post something as soon as I can. We'll see what hits the news cycle. If you got any good ideas for story ideas, please send them in to me. Write them down in the comments section, whatever you'd like to do. And I'll look into it. See if we can make a video out of it. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I hope to see you soon.